Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey everyone, welcome to Big Fat Real Estate Checks. This is Marco Kozlowski, your almost fearless leader, with next to me, Francesco Galuccio and Gabriel Araish in Montreal. And we are excited to share with you a topic that I've discussed here and there, but never really had a podcast on it. And when these two clowns told me about it, I'm like, yes, that's a great idea. It's on evictions because it scares the shit out of people. And they're different jurisdictions with different laws. And I think you should know that evictions are part of the process. It's going to happen. It's not like if it happens, it's going to happen. And you have to be familiar with the eviction process, what to do, what the laws are in the area that you're buying in. And in certain areas, I don't want to buy property because it's so tenant friendly. And in other areas, I definitely want to buy because it's so landlord friendly. And different asset classes have different rules as well. So it's a very interesting topic that I think we can really noodle around and have some fun with and discuss evictions. But first, since all three of us are Canadian, and I know if you're not Canadian, you probably don't give a shit about this, but you should know what it's like in other countries. Just from a perspective of, holy crap, am I ever lucky that I'm doing business in the U.S. versus, let's say, Canada. Let's talk about where we live, or lived, where I live, specifically in Montreal/Quebec. Let's talk about the eviction laws in Quebec. Gabe, I know you know this very well, so I'll let you lead on this one.
Sure. So yeah, sadly I know this very well, but so the eviction process is extremely complex in Quebec specifically. I'm not sure if it works the same way exactly in the rest of Canada, but so if someone doesn't pay you here, normally you need to file a request for a hearing to be able to evict them, and that process is what takes time. So you can file after a number of days. So you can't file after 2, 3, or 5 days that they haven't paid. You actually have to follow up in 10 days. And then in theory, it's after 30 days where you make your application. And then by the time you get a notice of hearing, it's going to be another 30 days or so. And then that's just the notice of, you're summoned to show up at this place at this time for the hearing. And then you get your hearing. And now a couple of things can happen there. So right off the bat, you're looking at, let's just say the person does show up. Yes, Your Honor, I haven't been paying my rent. I don't think I should be paying to live there. Then it's a simple eviction notice, and then they have to leave. But that process could take 90 days. So that's 3 full months that rent hasn't been paid. Now, this has happened before where you get to the hearing, they show up, and they have a certified check to pay you. So now the judge can grant them like a second chance, saying, well, here's your money. They've paid you. This is your last chance. If this happens again, whether you show up with a check or not, you're going to be evicted. But now you're dealing with the same tenant again, that there's already riffraff with them because, there's no more love relationship. This is all hate now. So it just creates a tenuous or a very tense situation, which nobody really likes. So the process is terrible. And then you have to expect that when the tenant doesn't pay, they're going to come with all the excuses in the world. And depending on what type of judge you have is what's going to, either help or hurt. So sometimes people could say, well, the place is not habitable. Like, there's holes everywhere. My toilet doesn't work. This doesn't work. And then the judge can decide whether that's, on you, the owner, or if it's a totally separate thing. Basically, I've had a good judge once because someone did do this to me, and he's like, well, even though, this lamp's not changed or this hole is not fixed, that's a part of your rent. So you have to pay your rent. You can't withhold rent, and then you have to make a claim so that things get fixed. So I got lucky, but it could have been the other way around. So the whole process, as you can see, is extremely complex and difficult. Yeah.
If they're on welfare, I have no place to go. You can't get them out.
No, and if it's winter and it's cold, you can't throw them out. Yeah, and if they're bankrupt, pregnant, bankrupt, you can't get them out. There's so many caveats to
if they
an
don't
eviction.
Have a job, you can't get them out.
I never checked on the job part, but
lost my job, don't have any money, have no place to go, can't get them out. So could you imagine where you're not getting paid for 90 days, they spring, I'm pregnant, I have no place to go, or it's cold, and it's cold in Canada. Like there's 2 seasons in Canada, winter and July. So if it's, you have a very narrow window and a very slim chance of actually getting people out. I've had tenants that have not paid for over a year and play that game, where the husband goes bankrupt and then the wife goes bankrupt and then that's released and then they get social assistance, so you can't get them out, and then they just play that game for years and you never get them out.
They're professional default tenants. They know the ropes. And Ontario, again, I haven't evicted anyone in Ontario, but it's very similar, where they file a notice after I think 30 or 15. I'm not even sure, 15 or 30 days to a subordinate court. They have the landlord and tenant board, so it's a board that they call it the kangaroo court or subordinate court. So they go there with a notice, and in Toronto, I know for a fact, it does take a long while to get a hearing, and the tenants know that. And yes, they come with excuses that the property wasn't maintained or whatever the case is. And even if you do win and get an order for possession, you still haven't recouped your money. So now, even if the landlord and tenant board says, okay, yes, Gabriel, you got to vacate the premises on or before this date. So just say this is months later, and you lost 2, 3, 4, 5 months of rent. Now you got to go to small claims court, which is under 25,000. If it's above 25,000, you got to go to Superior Court and file a claim, like a money claim, against that person. And then once you get judgment there, which is going to take you months, once you get judgment there, then it's up to you to find something that you can garnish or something that you can seize off that person. And the odds are, if they're not paying their rent,
you're not getting your money back.
Shit.
Yeah.
So you're not getting your money back. So that's just lost, and they know that.
It takes months, years.
Yeah.
Eviction here, you don't follow for money. I mean, it's the same process where there's an eviction,
California is very similar.
Collect.
California is very similar to this.
Yeah.
And you can't collect. You have to actually, that's a second step. And this has happened to me once, and I looked into it, and it could take up to 2 years before you get a court date to be able to go and get the money back. And just, again, that's going to be a judgment to garnish wages, but if the person has no job, then there's nothing to garnish. And it's, it's just a lot of wasted time and energy.
You gotta hire an attorney. Which is,
I'm going crazy just thinking about it. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a pain in the ass in certain jurisdictions to evict. So tenant-friendly states are a red zone for me. And if you actually Google, tenant-friendly states or tenant-friendly areas, you'll be able to pop up which ones are the worst. California is definitely the worst. Illinois is a bad one. New York as well. Those are 3 very difficult areas. Now there are ways to mitigate that, but that's not what this conversation is about. There are ways to mitigate that risk for sure. And you should mitigate your risk in those areas 100%. So there's extra steps that you can do to make sure that you're not going to be in that position. And that's part of the skill sets that you need in order to really grow your wealth that we discuss on this podcast. And we'll continue to discuss on this podcast to give you as much value as possible. So let's discuss Florida, because I know you just evicted.
Oh, we did? Oh, that's not our first one. We're not strangers to evictions. I know with the park we...
Are you scared of it?
Absolutely not. No, we know...
Were you at first?
At first I was, because I never evicted anyone in my life.
Yeah, I was scared. I went to jail over one because I didn't want to evict.
Yes,
we have a podcast on that. But
Marco goes to jail. Yes,
yeah,
that's a scary one. But no, I wasn't... the first evictions we did was when we bought the mobile home park. And it's fairly easy. In Florida it is. You give a 3-day notice after they're 3 days late. And then I think you give them a 5-day notice. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you file what's called a complaint with the court. And they have, I think, 10 days to come up with what's called an answer if they have if they're objecting to your eviction. And for the most part, if they haven't paid, there's really nothing there. They try to get the judge to weigh it on their side if the unit's not up to snuff or whatever. But they usually fail on that point, because when you file a complaint in Florida, I don't know about other states, but you have to actually pay rent in order for that answer to be admitted into court. So if a tenant is disputing your eviction, they have to pay that month's rent into court in order for them to accept that, in order for the clerk of court.
So it's in escrow.
It's an escrow,
basically,
and that's actually what happened now. So we did a lot of evictions during the park, and within a month, they're out easily within a month. So it's 3 days, 5 day notice. Then they get 10 days for an answer. Nothing there. Then you got what's called a writ of possession. It's 24 hours. The sheriff comes there, gun drawn out, and if they're in there, shit's gonna happen. I went to one of them in Tampa, the first one, and yeah, it was a big officer that came out, and a sheriff, and he knocked on the window and knocked on the door, and he goes, "Sheriff," he goes, "I'm armed." He goes, "I got a gun." He goes, "Come over with your hands up," and then he had to like smash the door down because apparently the lock that I had, the key that I had, didn't work.
Changed
so
it.
they changed it, and thankfully no one was there. You know, he told me to stand behind the cop car. He goes, "Son," he goes, "go behind the cop car, the squad car." It's like, all right, I'm videotaping this shit. But recently I had one, an eviction. It was on a home. And again, not because the tenant wasn't paying. Yeah, they were late from time to time. They were in the property for at least 4 or 5 years. This is one of my earlier properties that we got. And because Florida, because of inflation, the property skyrocketed in price. And like, you know what? We bought single families at first when we first started. Get buying anything. It's a little bit on the outskirts, outside of, again, Tallahassee, in Florida. And we offered, the tenant did express an interest to purchase the property previously. So we're like, hey, you know what? We're looking to sell. Do you want to buy it? We'll give you a discount so we don't have to involve realtors and all that. And they declined. So during COVID, what we did with all of our properties is we didn't renew anyone's lease. And what happens when you don't renew a lease, we have a clause in there saying that it'll go month to month. And the reason we did that because it was a loophole during COVID where if you were evicting because of arrears, because a lot of people had financial hardship, they lost their job, whatever the case is, you couldn't. It was against the law. You couldn't. There was a moratorium in place, so you're shit out of luck. But you could evict to end month-to-month tenancy. So we kept everyone on month-to-month, and this just happened recently right now. And we said, listen, we're going to sell it. Do you want it? No, we don't want it. And we said, fine, we're gonna sell it. And they didn't want to move. They go, well, I can't find the place till the new year. I was like, well, you're gonna have to find the place. That's hard to believe because she wanted to be in that particular area, but you can't pick and choose. You got to accommodate, right? Because we wanted to sell it. We wanted to move over to something bigger. So what happened is we ended up serving her a notice, and to end a month-to-month tenancy in Florida, you just have them given 15 days notice. So we served them on the 13th to exit on the 1st. So that was more than 15 days. That was a 15 plus 2. And she didn't leave. And so we're like, all right. So we filed with the court. We got an eviction company out here in Florida, $600. They'll do everything. So we did that. And she ended up finding an answer, which is, a rebuttal, which it didn't make any sense. She's like, I don't have the money to move somewhere else, this and that. But we weren't going after arrears. That was a clear thing. And she had to pay the money into escrow because she wasn't paying us, but she had to pay in order for that answer to be submissive, to be heard, exactly. And I had a conference yesterday, actually, over the phone with the judge. And she's like, what's the issue? And I'm like, I don't know. I go, we're trying to end month-to-month tenancy. We want to sell the property. We offered to sell it to them. We're very lenient. We haven't received our rent. She goes, well, we got your rent, because they had to pay in. Like, that's fine, but we don't have it in our pocket, right? And she's like, I don't see no reason here. And then she just signed the order. So now I got what's called judgment. And that was it. It was just over the phone. And
so what's next now?
Next, right now, because she just said she was on her own, the judge yesterday, and she had all these cases. She goes, just give me till tomorrow, which is today. And she goes, just phone the clerk, send $90. And you get what's called the sheriff goes out with the writ of possession. So she'll be out by
tomorrow.
Well, no, it's two. But if they're not going to go today, next
Friday.
week sometimes they'll be out on Friday or Monday, Tuesday. And they're right. The reason I did that is because the house it almost.
You got to get them out by Christmas. You got to do that.
Well, that wasn't my intentions, right? I'm not that cruel, but that wasn't our intention.
You're not that cruel.
Actually, what?
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, no,
Frank,
because
gosh, you're not the person I used to know.
We were trying to work with the tenant, and I guess she's not helping herself, and that's why it went through the whole month of October without anything. We're saying, look for a place, but you got to go. You got to go.
At the end of the day, she did it to herself. I'm just saying that to tease you, but the tenant had a choice to leave and not be in this position, right? And you're not serving the tenant by by not following that boundary. And, this is the boundary. This is what you want to do. Just go, right? So, and what, she had 2-3 months to
She had all this time, and we were being lenient in October, just saying, okay, find a place, this and that, but you need to exit, and we'll give you the month of October. And then she didn't pay October. Then I was a little bit bitter. It's like, what the heck, man? Now she's not leaving and she's not paying.
Unacceptable.
And there's a long-term tenant. It's not that.
Well, in this case, it's a house. So you have one mortgage with one house with one tenant, and you have to service now that debt.
Agreed.
And it's not fair to you, right?
Yeah.
So most people buy property with mortgages on them, and you got to pay the mortgage.
Yep.
And you just got to pay it. If they're living for free, no one appreciates something that they get for free ever. So they're not going to take care of the property as if they are paying rent. Now, in this case, they were to the court, but the point is, no pay, no stay, get out of here. And it's just part of the process. And you've evicted tons. I've evicted, well, I haven't, but I've had people do it for me. The one time I tried, what happened there? That was a lesson I learned a long time ago.
That's the last time you tried.
Exactly. I won't make that.
Now we sound frank.
I'm a fast learner.
Yeah.
But
the plastic.
I just go out for the show. I just go. Yeah. I never evicted on my own. I just go out when I went to one of them because I was just curious how they evict. I thought it was a great thing. I flew down to Tampa just to see this shit go down. But the other ones that Linda, she evicted like, tons. 2/3 of the park.
And I don't know if you know or not, but in certain jurisdictions, if they do a certain amount of damage in the property, it's considered a felony or a misdemeanor. Up to a certain point, it's a misdemeanor. Up to another point, it's actually a felony. You can actually, while the sheriff is there, press charges saying they vandalized the place.
You know what? We did do one at the park at the park in Florida. We actually, because they cut,
could have stripped it too. Like take the fridge, they take things that don't belong to them, right? Hey, they've stolen this, and that. Now it's a whole new deal. And what can you do if there's a crime that's in your unit?
Well, if there's a crime in the unit, there's insurance.
That's what insurance is for.
We had a few of those. So, but you're right. But they one of them caught the kitchen on fire. It says, "Hey, I'm not paying rent. I can't cook." But they caught the kitchen. That's the way they think. But
and that should be on their insurance too, right? Like not yours.
They don't have insurance. This is on the park. We have language in there that they should have tenant insurance, which is really cheap anyways for their content. But
you can actually force it.
They require it. Yes.
There's I think Allstate does in Florida. We make all tenants have to get it. It's $100 a year. It's cheap.
It's really cheap.
Yeah.
For the mobile home park, I just didn't think I was the clientele. We didn't enforce it.
Right.
But we went through that strategy. We called the police and said this is vandalism, number one.
Right.
And we were able to get insurance on there.
Yep.
But again, that's not the intent. When we're taking out people or evicting them, it's either they're in arrears and we need them out. There's a no pay, no stay policy, and that's what we communicate from day one to the tenants. We say, hey, we're going to improve the community, we're going to improve the park, we're going to improve the units, make sure they're safe and safe and clean and affordable. But at the same time, it's not fair that everyone else is paying on the first and you're not, and that's why we did that. But in this case, I did it because I wanted to sell the property strategically before the end of the year for tax implications, which obviously I can't do now, but she put herself in this predicament, and she's going to get, man, I'm not going to be there for that, but I'll have my realtor go up or whatever, the locksmith, but it's going to be a shit show in the next few days up there.
It's her choice though. You can't feel bad. It really is her choice. You gave her ample opportunity.
She made her own decision.
Yeah. And that's how you have to look at it. And I used to really care a lot more. They have no place to go, but at the same time, I have to make these mortgage payments and I have obligations to pay. I have investors to pay because they're the ones.
There is a private loan. Right. Yes, I do have to pay.
You have investors to pay. You have things to pay. And how are you going to pay with, you can't pay with excuses.
No.
You just can't.
At the end of the day, the agreement is, we're offering you this place to stay in exchange of rent money. You don't make your rent money. There's no obligation on me to service you. It's just It's a transaction, right? That's all it is.
It is. And as much as we do care, we actually care more by enforcing the rule than if you love your kids, you have rules. If you didn't give a shit about your kids, you do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Yeah.
But by having rules, it means you actually care, and that's how it works. And it took me a while to figure that out, at least for me. I know you guys are more ruthless than I am, but it took me a long time to really put my heart out of the equation and realize that I'm doing them a disservice by being lenient.
Mm-hmm. It truly is. And they get used to doing that. And then they try to push the boundaries, which is not going to be good either.
Like children.
So, should you be scared of evictions? Nope. Should you know what
Not
you're
in
getting
the
into
US.
in the areas? Not in the U.S. Well, like California, it's impossible to get rid of someone as well. Or Illinois, if you're not careful, you don't know what you're doing. It can be a real bitch. Or New York, and also certain other jurisdictions. It's different everywhere. So it's just know the rules, know the laws, know that it's just part of the game. It's part of the fun. And your management company should be taking care of that shit anyway. It shouldn't be you. So you're really removed from it if you do it right. So evictions are part of the game. Don't worry about it. And again, it's not like you're putting someone on the street. It was their choice to take the property. It was their choice not to pay. It was their choice. If something bad happens, we get it. Shit happens. But that's called life. And it's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you have to be part of that process in order to really build character for everyone around you. And that's that. So guys, appreciate you. Gabe, Frank, thank you so much for being here today. Listener, like it, love it, share it. And appreciate you, and help us get to 10,000 5-star reviews, please. Write a review now. When would now be a good time to write us a good review? Right now. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye for now.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.